C. Any other programming language?
Python. C. Python.
Python is procedural or object oriented?
Object. It's possible.
Okay, just tell me that what are the languages that you have learned from the college campus?
Python and C.
Python and C. Okay. So have you gone through the syllabus of object-oriented programming? Have you gone through the syllabus of object-oriented programming?
No, madam.
Just 1 minute. I'll send it to your WhatsApp group. Let me share the content first. Is it visible to you?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So this is your syllabus, total 5 units. Okay. Just go through it. I will share it to your WhatsApp group also. This is the content we have to cover during this semester. Your subject name is object oriented programming, but the main concept of object oriented programming is started from unit 2. Before moving on to the actual syllabus or actual course curriculum, I just want to clear you that first of all, we will start from this portion. Okay, because this is the subject that you have to know about the object-oriented programming. And I want to link this subject or this syllabus with your previous knowledge. That means that's why I am asking you that what are the languages you have already learned. Most of you have learned about the procedural language. Procedural, and the best example for the procedural language is C language, C programming language. Okay, so if I start from that point and just link that concept with the object-oriented programming, I think it's my opinion that it will be helpful to all of you. We can also start from this portion, that is the abstract data type, their specification, how to implement the abstract data type, but this is purely conceptual, a theoretical part. This is mainly design part of OOPS or object-oriented programming. So if we move on from this part, I think it will be more beneficial to you. That's why we will start from the basic concept of object-oriented programming that is directly linked to your procedural programming language. Okay, or procedural programming. Next onwards, we will study the details of this section, that is inheritance, model view controller, and after that we will move to the first part. And whenever we will study this portion, that is the object-oriented programming basic concept, then we will get the abstract data type and their implementation also. Okay, and at the end of this syllabus or end of this semester, we will study the generic type or the GUI, collection GUI. We will study the concept of swing also. GUI stands for graphical user interface. Whenever you will study the object-oriented programming, there is a most exciting part, that is the applet programming. That means how you can do the animation through object-oriented programming language. Okay, so if we do that, then we can also study the graphical user interface also. Just like you can design several games using object-oriented programming language, here we will study Java. Java is the example for object-oriented programming language. We will study that part, and in Java there is a portion that is known as a applet programming. And using that applet programming, you can do the animation in your program. Or you can say that is the most of the online games that can be developed using applet. Okay, applet is the section of your Java programming language. So this is my plan regarding this subject. Do you have any suggestion or any view or anything you want to just share with your classmate and also mine? Any suggestion? Any suggestion from your side? Am I audible to you?
Yes, madam. No, there is no suggestions.
Why no suggestion? You have some opinion regarding this portion that we will start it from the second portion. Just a minute, student. Okay, let's back to the class. So this is my plan to cover the syllabus of object-oriented programming. Okay, and next is the textbook. For pure object-oriented programming, you can go for the book that is, this is the textbook as well as the reference book. You can follow. Okay, but for the designing purpose, you can go for this Rambak, object-oriented modeling and design part. That is the first part. In this book, there is also the concept of the basic programming language as well as the model view controller or a small portion of the GUI design. Okay, this is the main book for object oriented modeling, or we can say that is the design part. Okay, but there is another portion. This total textbooks, number of textbooks I have collected from your markout syllabus. Okay, but other than this book, there is also a core book that you have to collect, and it's my suggestion that you can permanently take in this book that this is the complete reference Java 2 TMH publication. Okay, this is the core book or mother book to learn the Java programming language. So these two books I will suggest for the whole syllabus. The first part we will cover from the third book. Basically, it is known as a Harvard Shield book, or the full name of this book is Complete Reference of Java. Okay, it is Java 2, that is the version. Just go through this book. Your first portion or first module that we will cover in this syllabus, that will go for this book. Okay. Or the programming language, the basic concept of the programming language, or anything that you want to learn from the object-oriented programming concept, you will go for this book. And this book is Rambak. This book basically go for the designing part. Clear? Any doubts for these two books? The object-oriented programming concept that will cover by the book, that is the Harvard Shell or the complete reference of Java. You can permanently take this book for your future reference. Or if you want to learn the concept of object-oriented programming, then this book is the mother book, the book for complete reference of Java. Okay, there are several object-oriented programming languages that you can learn or you can follow, but in our syllabus, we will follow the Java programming language. And for learning the Java programming language, the book for Harvard Shield, or the name of the book is The Complete Reference of Java. Okay. And whenever you want to design any particular model or any particular system using the concept of object-oriented programming concept, then you can go for the book that is the okay. So these two books I'll suggest you to go for the object-oriented programming syllabus. Okay. Now, the next part is I just want to know from your side that what do you know about the procedural language? Or we just want to start our discussion that from which point we will move towards the object-oriented programming concept. Because using C, you can also done many computational problem or any problem on any application. You can do using C programming language. You have already learned the C programming language, and using C programming language, you can do, you can solve any problem basically, any application tasks also. So why we will go for the object-oriented programming? Why we will study it? This gap should be filled up first. After that, we can go for the basic concept of object-oriented programming. As this is the introduction class or introductory class, I just want to know that why we'll do the procedural language, why we'll go for the object-oriented programming language. I will choose that. Any point that you can describe that what is the features for procedural programming? What is
Reduces
the
the development time.
procedural programming reduce the development time compared.
Object oriented programming. Object oriented. Reduces
Okay,
the development time.
your point is object-oriented programming reduce the development time. Can you
Development
tell
time.
can you tell me why or how?
Because you can reuse the code and develop based on
Okay.
the previous object actually. We can reuse the code and develop the models based on the previous objects.
But whenever we will use the, your point is very good. First of all, I appreciate it. That is, this is the main feature. So we'll move for the object-oriented programming. But just answer me one question that in procedural language or in C programming language, there is a concept of function. You can write down a specific code or specific application in a within a function, and whenever you need that application, you can call definitely that function in your program. So there is the concept of reuse. So why we will go for the object oriented programming? This is also the features for procedural language that we can call a function, and within a function we can write down our desired code, and that function can be called by other function also. Just think about that part. Or you can add any other point that features the procedural language, because you are in the expertise part of the procedural language. You can know, you all are aware of the C programming language. So what is the main strength of C programming language, and what is the drawbacks of C programming language? Can anyone tell me? Just think about it. Take some time. What is the main features of procedural language? Just tell me, just answer me that question.
Ma'am, in a procedural language, we can declare global variable and local variable, but
Yes, you can create the local variable as well as the global variable. The global variable can be accessed by all the functions, and the local
yes, madam.
variable is limited to a particular function in which you can declare the local variable. This is one features of procedural language, but the main concept, designing concept, this is the entry point of our discussion. That's why I want to emphasize on this point, that why we will move for the object oriented programming. One have answered that there is a reuse of code in object oriented programming. It's a very good point. The concept is known as a inheritance. Okay. In object oriented programming, there is a concept of inheritance through which you can reuse the code. And whenever you are able to reuse a particular code, that means you can definitely reduce your development time. First of all, if the code is already developed by someone, then you can use it again and again. This will definitely reduce the total development time. But procedural language have its own features. What are those? And after that, you need to find out that what are the main drawbacks of procedural language, for which we will move for the object-oriented language. Main concept is in procedural language, just think of whenever you will be asked for solving a particular problem, you just think on the procedure, that how you can solve the problem. This is your main criteria, the main attention, that how you can solve the particular problem. Okay, this is the case for the procedural language. But whenever we will move for the object-oriented language, the perception is changed. Here are all the things that you need to concentrate on, that is on data. What are the data and how the data is being affected for a particular problem. This is the main concept that we will move for the procedural language to object-oriented language. And whenever we will develop this object-oriented language, there are lots of other features also. The first features that you have to learn, that is the this is the introductory class, and I will just provide you the basic concept. From the next class onward, we will go for the actual study material as well as the PPTs and the other sections. But this is the discussion portion. That's why I want to make it the interactive session. That you have already learned that how a particular problem can be solved by C programming language. And whenever you will be asked to do that, then you will concentrate on the procedure, that how you will solve that particular problem. Okay, but next thing, when we move from that point to object-oriented programming, we will think in a different way. We'll definitely think on a real-life entity basically. That means who is being affected whenever we will ask for doing a particular problem. This is our main motto. And the portion that I have just raised on, that is the main features for which the Java programming language have developed or any other object-oriented programming have developed, that is the portability. That whenever you have done a particular C programming language and particular C program basically, then you have to compile it, and after compilation you will get the exe file, and that file, if you want to transfer it from one particular machine to another machine, The main features that you have to know about that the C compiler must be present in the same C compiler must be present in the another machine. That means our procedural language is not portable. You can't move this program from one machine to another machine without the help of the compiler. But this is not the case for the Java programming language. The main features of Java programming language is it is portable. Okay. Portability means you can run whenever you have developed a particular Java program and you have compiled it. Basically, Java program is compiled as well as interpreted. That's why it is known as it is a compiled language as well as the interpreted language. Okay, both the things have happened for Java programming language. Just think about it. We have chosen a particular object-oriented programming language. Since we have to do it using the Java programming language, I want to I want to go for the main strength for Java programming language. Okay, so the main features of it that is the portability. And portability means you can develop the Java program for any machine and you can move that Java program from that machine to another machine without any hesitation. Basically, this I think who have gone for the Python programming language know the main features of that programming language. That is the why we will develop it. Basically, it is developed. There is a history from it that whenever some scientists think about the object-oriented programming language, they are actually developing some scientific research work. Okay. Now think about some scientists are decided on India, some are in USA, someone in South Africa. Okay. But whenever they want to develop a particular a single application, okay, and that single application is subdivided by several scientists. Okay. And several scientists have several PCs. Like one scientist from India, they are using the Windows platform. From South Africa, they are using the Mac OS platform. From US, they are using, for example, say the Linux operating system. The operating system is different for different scientists. And whenever they will develop their application for a particular operating system, they are unable to combine all the application in a single unit. At that time, they think about that there is a requirement for a programming language that needs that portability. But whatever be the platform that you have developed your application program, that application program should be run on in any different platform. Otherwise, their tasks or their application cannot be compiled. Okay, so this is the problem. This is the problem from which the scientists think on it that they need to develop some object-oriented programming like that. The features of that programming language should be portable. Okay, this is one part. That's why the object-oriented programming language has just developed. Okay, and one concept that we have already discussed, that is the inheritance. We will study it in details later on. But there are two other features also that will enrich the Java programming language, or we can say that is the main features of object-oriented programming also. Sometimes we are using these two terms, that is the Java programming language and object-oriented programming language, because our syllabus will continue with the Java programming language. Okay. There are other programming languages that are available for the object-oriented programming. I think you are familiar with also C++ programming language. Anyone of you know about that language, that is C++?
Yes, madam.
C++. Okay. It is in your syllabus or you have learned it separately?
Separately, ma'am. It's not in syllabus.
Okay. Except Suman, there are lots of other students. What are the programming language you have already learned, except the C programming language?
From Python.
Right. Okay. Any other programming language from other students? Any other programming language from other students?
Ma'am, ma'am,
Yes. Java. You have learned Java.
ma'am, JavaScript.
JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting language. Okay. Any other? Who have told me that JavaScript we have learned JavaScript?
I'm Gautam Raj.
Oh, Gautam Raj. Okay. So why you have learned JavaScript for
Ma'am,
developing any web
yes,
pages?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you have a glimpse of the Java programming language also.
Yes, ma'am. I have studied in class 10th Java.
Okay, just a minute.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
Sorry.
I too, ma'am. Up to 12, I have learned Java.
Okay, sorry, students. I have just one conversation with another colleague. Okay. Tell me. So scripting language, you have used JavaScript for developing the web pages. So
Yes, ma'am.
Gautam, whenever you are using the JavaScript language, then you have a little glimpse of Java. You know
Ma'am,
that part?
almost it's similar language, but I would say JavaScript is better.
No. Not JavaScript is not similar with the Java programming language. Some of the concepts
No,
of
ma'am.
Java
Some
programming
concepts
language,
are similar.
yes. Some
Yes,
concept is introduced in the JavaScript. It is a scripting language basically. That scripting language is used the features of Java.
ma'am.
Okay. That's why, whenever you have to develop any website or any web pages. So at that time, you need to think about two parts, the front end design part and the back end design part. Okay. So for front end design part, you have to use the JavaScripting language. And from back end design part, you can use many other language also.
Ma'am, I studied for backend Node.js and Express.
Yeah, very good. This is a good practice that you have used already. That and if you have done any animation like part in your web pages using some applet
Yes,
programming,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
yes, that means the applet programming concept and the basic features of Java programming language is known to you. It will help you to understand this particular subject. Very good. And most of you have done the Python programming language now. So I think the basic features of Java programming language, or we can say in general as the object-oriented programming language, is known to all of you. Clear? So one concept we have already discussed, the basic portion already, that is the inheritance. There is another concept that is the encapsulation. Actually, I want to know that which portion is already known to you. If the portion is known to you, I will just recollect that portion in a short amount of time, and we'll move for the next part. Okay. So if you are aware of the basic features of object-oriented programming language, then you are aware of the concept of encapsulation as well as the polymorphism, because encapsulation, polymorphism, and inheritance, these three features are the basic features for object-oriented programming language. And the next part is that is the abstraction. This is directly related to the encapsulation. So can you, anyone of you can tell me, or we can just discuss in this class that what is the concept of encapsulation? What is the concept of encapsulation? Can anyone of you tell me?
Process of wrapping code and data together into a single unit.
Very good. That's why it is named like that. That is the encapsulation. Whenever we have just seen that any capsule, that means all the important medicine or all the required medicine is just wrapped down into a single unit. And that's why we are talking about the object oriented programming. That means the main concentration is here the data, and how the data will be processed, that will be known as a method, or in general we can say it as a code, source code. So whenever you will wrap down the data and the code in a single unit, this process is known as the encapsulation. And whenever you will wrap down the data and code into a single unit, that unit will be known as a class. CLASS class. Just link this portion with your previous knowledge whenever you will write down the function code into a function. That function concept is directly related to the method of object-oriented programming. But in case of function, we will concentrate only on how the problem can be solved. That means on the procedure. But whenever we will develop the code for or the method for any object, then we will concentrate on that who are being affected. Because in object-oriented programming language, all the thing we will just learn about on the basis of the entity or object. Object is nothing but a real world entity. What are the example of the object? That will be from this class we can collect several real life entity. That is the first part. The first two important part is student. It is one real life entity to maintain a class, and the second one is the instructor or faculty. Okay, so these two are the real life entity. Whenever we are talking about the object oriented programming class or any other class that is in your syllabus, then if we think about any real world entity or any entity that will be any existence that will be affected by it, who are those? The first two primary thing is the student and the faculty. So whenever we will think about any application on the basis of object oriented programming, we will just concentrate on that part. That is who is being affected. That real entity you first have to distinguish. After that, you need to describe that real life entity. And that the real life entity and the procedure for affecting this real life entity will be wrapped down in a single unit that is known as the class. And this procedure, that this wrapping down of code and data in a single unit or within a class, this procedure is known as a encapsulation. So you may be asked in your interview that what is the example for encapsulation? There is a blind answer, that is the concept of class. Clear? The next very important part is the third features, that is the polymorphism. Polymorphism means poly means many. Okay. Whenever you will be able to do more than one task using a single interface, then it will be these features will be known as a polymorphism. Okay, just think about the part. You want to do some addition. Okay. Now, in programming concept, we have already learned that addition can be of many types. We can add two whole number, that means two integer number. We can add two fractional number, that is the two floating point number. Or we can add one character with another character, one integer with one floating point number, and like that. There are several type of addition can be happened. But the addition, this is a single interface. Behind that addition, there is several type of addition. These features, just think about it. If I have just asked you to solve this problem, that is addition of several data types using C programming language, what you will do? You will do addition for two integers, you will do addition for two floating points, like that. But if we go for the object-oriented programming language, we will make that the addition, this is a single method, and whenever we will go for the addition of two integers, that will be calculated during the runtime, because all the things that will be affected or that will be represented by the concept of object. An object is that entity. Basically, object is an instance of a classes. Okay, instance of a class means whenever you want to make it in a real life, then you will declare the value of that object. We will assign the value of that object. We'll learn about that how the class can be defined, how the object can be defined. But this is the basic concept, that how you can design the concept of encapsulation, design the concept of polymorphism, and how the object will be affected. Just think about it, that if we just think about the real life entity, that is the student. Okay, so you can make the student as your object, but there are lots of students. Each and every student is identified by some unique features. Okay, that features may be the roll number, maybe the name. Sometimes the name may collide with each other, but there is a collision. But if we go for the roll number or the registration number, that is the unique features. But think about that if we just call that is the student, it is not the, we can define a particular student or real life value of it. But if I go for a particular student, at that time you need to assign some name of that student, the roll number of the student. That if I call that is in CSE third year, there is a student name, anyone, that is a Neha Kumari, and the roll number of that student, the last three digits is 166. Whenever we will just keep this value to a particular field, at that time this will be known as a object. So whenever we will assign the value to that object, then it will actually occupy the memory. Otherwise, if we just declare it, no memory will be occupied by it. Okay, we will study in details in our lab section as well as in our class. In theory portion I will also cover that. But for introductory part, just go through this part, that is the class mean. This is the wrapping of data and code in a single unit. That is basically the blueprint of a particular template. Okay, whenever we will just want to build any particular house, you have to first make down the blueprint of that house. Okay, but if we assign the particular value to this blueprint, that means a particular room of a particular size, then the whole construction will be developed. So at that time, it will begin to the real life entity. That means it will create an object. You just think about it. Using the same blueprint, you can develop more than one house. Okay, using the same blueprint. How we can define it using the student? So whenever we will define the student, this is our class. Okay, at that time we need to define the several features of it. That means the roll number, name, that will be the features of it. But whenever we will assign a particular value, that is Neha Kumari and 166, then it will go for the real life entity. That means it has the physical existence. Then we'll call it as an object of that student class. Here, class is basically a template. An object is instance. That means it's real life existence. Here, any doubts of class and objects? We'll study in details, but this is the basic concept. Any doubts? So in this class, yeah, tell me, Devopika.
No doubt.
Very good. So this is our first part that we need to cover. Okay. After that, that is we have already covered that the object-oriented programming language basic features as well as some basic concept of class and object. Since it is our first class and in the next part of this day, that means in second half, you have already a lab. And today we'll just go for the basic concept of this class and object, and uh, I will provide you the concept that how the Java program can be developed. There is some traditional procedure, or you can just go for the virtual mode, that is the online Java. You can use the online Java compiler. So there is the concept for uh, Java development kit, Java development runtime environment, and how the path set can be developed. Okay, how the path can be set up in the next section of this day. Okay, in the lab section, we will study about it, how path setup can be done, or how a particular Java application can be installed in your PC. Because in this virtual era, we have lots of application, that is the online compiler. Most of the students have used the online compiler. That means there is a virtual compiler, and you are provided with an interface. And using that interface, you have developed your Java program, okay, or any other program also. But you are the engineers. You need to know about any concept from the root level. Just because you are provided with one computing system, and you are asked to set up the Java software, then how you will do that? For that portion, you need to know about the part that how a particular Java package can be installed in your PC, and what are the procedure by which you can set up the path of the Java directory to your working directory. That is the traditional procedure. I think that should be learned by you. Okay. In the next section of this day, we will cover that part. And after onwards, we will use the virtual compiler, because I think most of you will be familiar with that compiler, but the basic concept behind that should be learned by you. That's why the traditional procedure will be shown to you, that how a particular you can also install the JRE. JRE means Java Runtime Environment, but there is a difference between the JRE and JDK. Okay, the Java Development Kit and the Java Runtime Environment. Okay, to understand the basic concept or basic difference between the JDK and JRE, you need to learn about another features that is known as the Java bytecode. Okay, or how a Java program is compiled, and after compilation, which file will be developed. And can anyone share me that when you compile a C program, what are the just conversion file name? Just you have write down any C program, or for example, it is the program name is abc.c. Okay, this is your file name, or xyz.c. .c is the extension. The next thing that you have compiled that program using some C compiler. So what will be the output of that compilation procedure? Can anyone tell me? So that from that point we will link to our Java program compilation procedure. In your working directory, what will be the output whenever you will just compile the a particular C program. After compilation, the extension will be changed. What is that extension? Just think about it. Do you know about .obj file, object file? Just do it in your laptop or in your PC, whatever you have right now. Write a C program and just compile it. And tell me after compilation, what will be the output file. And my next question is, whenever you have just run this program, then what will be the ultimate output file? What will be the ultimate output file extension?
Ma'am, .exe.
Yes, .exe, it will be in your final extension. And what
Yes.
will be the extension for the after compilation?
.obj.
Can anyone of you tell me that what is the difference between these two files, .obj and .exe? If we take this .obj file,
.obj file has not gone through linking and loading process.
linking and loading process. So after linking and loading, it will be in .exe extension.
No, when it will have all the processes and it is complete for execution, only then it will have .exe execution file.
So which file will take if we want to execute that file, that C program from for another platform, and at that platform your C compile is already present, then which particular code will take, that is the .obj or .exe?
Ma'am, .obj.
.obj. Any other doubts from the other student, or any point that other student can want to just embed with this point? Devopita has told that you will collect that .obj file. You are agreed with that point? Why not .exe? Anyone can tell me? These are the basic concept. You have to first clear that concept. Then we'll move for the another dimension, because object oriented programming language, this has a separate dimension from the procedural language. But procedural language is the base. We have lots of problem with the procedural language, so we'll move for the object oriented programming language. Okay, object oriented programming language help us to resolve that problem. But that doesn't mean that the object-oriented programming language is the only one who can solve all the problems. It also has several disadvantages. We will learn it in later. But first of all, the main concept of procedural language, you need to clear it. Just think about that part, that you have two files. Actually, you have three files basically. Whenever you will write down a source code for C programming language, you have a file with the extension .c. You need to compile that file. After compilation, you will get .obj file. And whenever you will execute that file, then this file is converted to .exe file. I just want to know that what is the difference between these three files. And if I just want to take this C program, C source code to another platform, then what will be the effect? If we just take it this .obj file and want to compile it another platform, then what will happen? Or what is Devapita just said that if I just take that second option, that is the if I just want to take .exe file to the another platform, then what will happen?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
.exe file in any procedural language, that is C language, is system based, means it is OS based. So we cannot use a C program which is executed or .exe file for Windows into another OS system like any Mac or something. So if we take, I think, if we take the .obj file and then load it in another system, then there is a process called cross compilation where the system will change, I think, that code into a means OS based code, and then we can run the program.
Have you ever tried?
No, I have not tried, but I have studied.
Okay, you have studied it and you have not tried. My request to you, all of you, that first try to do it. Try to do two part. At least you have two platform, Unix and as well as the Windows. And both of you have for Unix you have the GCC compiler, and Windows you have also a C compiler. Just try to do it. Listen, one thing that you have studied from the textbooks, this is just a theory part. And sometimes it may happen that you have just read out of the theory section and you have understood that you have just understand that that particular portion in your own way, in your own logic. But you are at the beginning stage. Your understanding and your logic, sometimes it may not be correct. You have read out the statement, but you have understood it in different way. So my request to all of the students, just at least one time go through that part. Try to bring that OBJ file to another platform and try to run it. And the next portion, that try to go for the same procedure for .exe file. And one thing that you have already told us, that is the Devapita just shared with us, that is the linking and loading procedure. She have told that the linking and loading procedure will be done during the execution time. And that time that the whole procedure is directly linked with the .exe file. What are the undergoing logic behind that? Just try to resolve it. This is the task for your first class. In the next class, in the next half class, we will go for the how to execute a Java program and what are the procedure to install and set up the path for that software package basically. Okay, but the first thing, that just go through this portion. This is most vital part. And as you are the BTech engineers, then from the CSE background, you should know about that part. Later on, I think you have a one subject, that is the compiler design. Is it in this current semester? Current
Yes,
semester
madam.
have, yes. So you will get the clear idea of it. That during the compilation, what is the exact procedure that have happened with your source code, and what will be the other part. Okay, for each and every other students, that means that performing the programming language means write down any code in any editor, or if the editor is not available, then in Notepad. Then just compile the program and run the program. This is the procedure for any users or any programmer. But you are the computer science background programmer, you need to know the details behind it. That's why if there is a problem for the compilation procedure or the execution procedure, you can at least analyze that part, that why this has happened. Okay, so we are at the end of this class. Just go through this section. We will meet in the second time. Okay. Any point that you want to raise? You can share it to me directly. And the book as well as the syllabus, I will send it to your WhatsApp group today. Just go through that book. I have a PDF version of the complete reference, and I will provide it to you. Just go through it. Okay. We'll meet in the second time. Okay, I am ending this meeting.